Hello, welcome. I'm Shellen Briand and so happy to have some time with you today. I am part of the Supermoms team and one of our success coaches. And I have with me today our founder and CEO, Heather Black. She is also the best-selling author of her new book, Become a Super Salesforce Consultant. And it is an A to Z guide. And we have been working through the alphabet each week at this this time. And today we are on H. And that is, how do you attract, hire, and retain the best Salesforce professionals? So welcome, Heather. I'm glad to have this time here with you.
Always love, yeah, we love these little sessions on a Tuesday. So lovely to see everybody. Thank you. I hope this is a really useful session for you if you're looking to really attract and retain really great talent. So we'll be delving into how you build a great Salesforce team around you if you're already there as a Salesforce professional, but equally if you're hiring and you're implementing a new Salesforce system, some of the tips from this chapter will certainly get you started in the right direction.
I think this is a really interesting time for this discussion. I know when I really stepped in, pivoted my career through Supermoms and went into Salesforce, it was really at a time when the talent had so much of the leverage in the situation. And we've kind of come a bit of the pendulum's been swinging to where there's less of that today in some roles, and there's more employer focused, which may not get a last, but it's definitely an interesting time to think about what to do to attract, hire, and retain those special Salesforce professionals and those that you really need. So what do you think companies need to be paying attention to when it comes to even that discussion? If they're sitting at the table and having the conversations around how do we really attract sales professionals to us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's three things that we can look into today as part of that. The first is to make sure that you've got the right team composition, the roles and responsibilities. So what we're finding or can find is that everybody's wanting to pay the lowest price, but wants somebody to have all the skill sets, which isn't really practical. And so one, you can pay a higher price and try and get somebody with a combination of skills. And by that, we might be talking about business analysts, business analyst skills, project management skills, Salesforce admin or technical skills, change management skills. It is possible to hire somebody that's got all of those skill sets, and that might include DevOps as well. But you're going to be paying a higher price salary for that with somebody who's more experienced. Or you can have a composition of people in those distinct roles that are working together as a team. And sort of it depends on the size of the implementation, the size of the organization, and how that's composed. So that's the first thing that I talk about from that point of view, is making sure that what you're advertising is attractive from a salary and a role point of view, and not trying to get everything in one place.
I think that's so insightful. It's surprising sometimes to read job descriptions. I saw on LinkedIn today somebody had read a job description and wrote back to the founder of the company and said, have you read your job descriptions? And kind of that point, the list of duties and responsibilities and things that you're requiring for this job should be paying 4 times as much. And how to, like, clearly somebody writing this job description has never done any marketing a day in their life of how important it is to, what are the essence, what are the most important impacts, and how to put that forward in a way that's, transparent and attractive. But what other areas do you think companies should focus on outside of perhaps that clarity around the job and the salary that's appropriate? What other things are people looking at? And as somebody that has a recruiting company, you hear firsthand from the client side and the candidate side. But what are candidates telling you that they're looking for? What stands out to them?
Yeah, no, great question. I think it's important that going back to that point, I just wanted to follow on from what you said there about the job specs. The reason why quite often, that happens is because the company that's hiring Salesforce professionals don't have any experience of Salesforce, don't understand the job roles and experience. And that's why companies use recruitment agencies like we have at Supermums, because our recruitment team understand the different job roles and responsibilities and can advise the client on, what is realistic and what's not, and also provide technical tests as part of that, and can help shortlist candidates that might be suitable based on a talent database. So if you're not attracting any talent because they're looking at a job spec, like you just said, and gone, well, they're expecting the moon and back for like £30,000, that's clearly not going to happen, and you're not going to get anybody applying for it because there's a complete mismatch. So that's where using a recruitment agency can be really, really useful. And I think, going back to your point about what is it that candidates look for, you can also work with the recruitment agency to make your job stand out and make it attractive to somebody. Yes, it's not as competitive, but it is still competitive. Like, you still want the best talent coming to you, out of a pool of people, however big that talent pool is. And the talent pool is bigger right now. So obviously, you kind of want to make sure that you are selling your company in the right way. So a recruiter will help you think through that. Some of the things that I've got in the book here is people will get excited. I called them sexy. What makes this job sexy is if it's a greenfield implementation, like it's a brand new org. I mean, that's like somebody's dream, quite frankly. You've not got, when you go into an existing org and they've already got a system, you're like, oh my God, what's under the hood? Whereas if it's a greenfield implementation, it's like, oh, we can go and play and like build everything from scratch, right? So you want to advertise if it's greenfield. You might want to advertise that it's an award-winning organization that you work for. Why is it a great organization? Is it award-winning for flexible working practices, or supporting women in work, or health and benefits, or whatever it is? So, why is your organization award-winning? Because that will appeal to some kind of people that they think, oh, wow, I'm going to work for an organization that's already got these credentials and reputation. Another kind of sexy point might be that it's a FTSE corporate company, that you're a global enterprise leader in a certain industry. That is going to appeal to some kind of, some talent. Obviously, some things will appeal to others rather than others. But what is it that you've got that makes you really stand out? You might be a high growth company. So maybe you aren't a big FTSE corporate yet, but maybe you've had investment, maybe you're a high growth company. Some people get really excited if they are going to be part of, growing a company and adding that value and that impetus and being almost a startup environment. Some people prefer that dynamic to a corporate, and actually you want to attract the right people. You want to attract somebody that's going to be excited by the startup dynamic environment, which is a very different character to somebody that wants to be in a big corporate firm. So those sorts of things. You might have a specialist niche as a company. So maybe you specialize in non-profits, and maybe somebody will work with you, because that is the reason I certainly had when I was running a Salesforce consultancy. People would apply to me directly because we work with non-profits, and that's where they wanted to be. Every consultancy, every customer will have a niche, an industry niche they're into, that might be the reason why people might apply. With that in tow as well, it might be because you're mission led. People might be very interested in the values of the company, how you give back, mission led things. That is really, really important. One of the things that's become more and more applicable, and I think particularly in the USA, this is quite often the case, but more so is also we're seeing this in the UK, is benefits. What benefits you're offering. I think since the pandemic, that's been massive on people's radar. And people are choosing jobs over benefits, not just pay, because actually the benefits might be much greater than the pay in some instances. If there's much better healthcare, they might do that versus over something else. So benefits is definitely something you want to look at. And then the final thing, there's two other points here. Benefits goes in hand with diversity as well. So I'll come on to that in a moment, about diversity, given that's where Supermum sits a lot of the time. But the final thing that you might want to talk about is the CRM roadmap. So going back to whether it's a greenfield implementation or whether it's an existing Salesforce system, what are the different products and roadmap that they could be implementing? Because in terms of retaining talent, people want to keep learning and developing. It's why the average churn rate is every couple of years. And that's not because the organization's bad or whatever. It's because people have a thirst to learn. They have a thirst to learn new industries, new products, and keep developing. They don't necessarily want to stick and do the same thing every day. So if you can advertise and say, well, look, our CRM roadmap includes rolling out these products in due course, they're going to be, oh, wow, this is going to be amazing, and is the opportunity to upskill and sort of develop in those areas. So all of these things you really want to be advertising in your job ads and sort of getting that appetite for people and that you'll develop them. And the blogs that I started a blog series today because at Supermums we run a blog series every week, and this is something we also talk to employers about in the recruitment agency, is you want that career progression plan with an employee coming in, so they can see over 2 years or 3 years or whatever you want to range out, you've laid out, this is what we expect to see from you now. This is what we'd like to see from you in a year's time with a pay increment. And this might be, what you might want to see further down the line. You might have a salary progression, but that aligns with them getting additional certifications, holding more responsibility, demonstrating more business value, sitting more around the management table and presenting and owning like the CTO structure. So in this week's blog, which is available on my LinkedIn profile as well, we've been looking at, how would you go from a Salesforce admin to a system manager to a Salesforce technology officer and be sitting around the management table, and we're sort of listed really the increments and steps there. So people are going to be attracted to you and will stay with you if you've got that progression plan for them, because as a Salesforce professional, you never stay the same, right? You're always adding value, always adding things to your bow, always wanting to learn. So it's really important companies take that in mind. And then the final point, which, very much why a lot of companies use Supermums for recruitment, is that you want to have an equal, diverse tech team. And so people quite often will use Supermums because they want to make sure they've got a gender balanced CV pool. They can obviously, we do have men through our pool as well, and sort of as well as the wider diverse pool. So, it's making sure that you're using and accessing CVs from a diverse audience, using specialist recruitment agencies, whether that's Salesforce, and also hitting all those different diversity sort of angles to make sure that you're representing a wider audience, because companies who have a diverse team will outperform their competitors. That's been demonstrated by various research, and you can represent your different customer base, then that builds, that sort of appeal and demonstrates the ROI from it all. So you can certainly, we'd be happy to help any of you advertise and recruit your roles at Supermums Recruitment. We have a wide pool generally, and I think that's the other thing, is your time to recruit can be so much quicker if you've got somebody already sifted, because they already know the candidates, they already know what's going to be suitable for you. So even though there's a fee there, there's a reason why that is there, because a lot of that groundwork's been done. So I think that's a whole range of things to think about, but certainly, you'll get a better outcome from those things I've talked about today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to do that due diligence for the partner. I think sometimes this diversity topic, it's easy for recruiting companies or teams to talk about it, but it's because it sounds good and it's what, plays well. But it's interesting to kind of find out, well, what are the candidates actually coming to the table? Like, who's being presented to the client, and what is that looking for, and being able to have that roadmap for bringing up people within the organization. I noticed one of the conversations that I had a number of times is people took jobs for benefits, definitely in the US, but they also really were attracted to companies who would support them being involved in the ecosystem of attending user group meetings, or being able to put in their plan for the year to go to one of the bigger Salesforce events, and being able to pursue those opportunities. So I think sometimes those are things that really don't show up often. And I'd say kind of a last thing, you mentioned the pandemic and how that impacted. One of the things that I know we've noticed is there were so many leaders who weren't part of LinkedIn that are now very active on LinkedIn. And that's another place to really bring forward that culture about your company, the stories, that roadmap, some of the things, your enthusiasm for your organization, your team, what your company's accomplishing. It's a place where people can find that evidence outside of your job profile. And I know you certainly have leverage that and really learn to show up and let people, know who you are as a leader and see and experience the team. Do you have any advice for people around leveraging LinkedIn to support attracting, hiring, and retaining employees?
Yeah, that sparked a really important point in my head, actually, because I think the more that you talk about your organization, its vision, its values, the roadmap, and what you want, what you're hoping to get back from a prospective employee is that they will write you a very sincere, personalized covering letter and CV to explain why they want this job. And it was fascinating because we had a role, a Salesforce admin role, internal role for us at Supermums, but I had like over 40 CVs for it, through advertising on LinkedIn and through our recruitment database. But it was, so many of them were blankets, and so many of them had no sort of, here's my CV and throwing it on the table. And, you're just not going to hire anybody who can't make any effort to say why they want to work for your company or organization, and what's of interest to them. So, with working with a recruiter, it's slightly different because obviously people get shortlisted and put forward, but you can ask that they write covering letters to you. I'm a big advocate of hiring people that are really bought into our company and aren't just throwing their CV to 200 people as a blanket thing. So I think the more that you share, the more you should expect to get back people who are really aligned to your company and ethos and values, and they're going to be the ones that you retain. Whereas if you as a company don't share anything, you're going to get, somebody who's more agnostic and not that fussed, and there's going to be less of that marriage. It's like dating, isn't it, really? Like, what should I share about myself? And, sort of that, the more you share, the more you're likely to get the right match. So I think it's just really important that we share things, whether it's through LinkedIn, through the job ad, through videos with the recruitment agency, that they know as much as possible so they can share that with the candidates, because equally they've got to get the candidates excited and, kind of get the right match, because then that's going to be a longer term solution for everybody.
How do your recruiters go about building relationships with the candidates to really get under the, under the resume to the person, what they really want, and making sure that they can make that good, that dating match between a company and a candidate?
Great question. So I think there's onboarding calls, and from that, you really, the recruitment consultant will really understand what is it that person is looking for, what kind of culture of organization, what's their personality traits, what job role is going to suit them, and sort of providing that level of coaching as well to kind of make sure that there's a right fit going forward. Where have they worked before, what did they enjoy about where they worked before, and then you're having equally, it's really, really important that our recruitment consultants have conversations with employers. We always advocate that. We would never put forward somebody for a job without really understanding that company and the culture and everything else, because it's like dating. It is like really understanding that there's a match there and that you're getting the right fit, because otherwise what are you paying for? So there is that interview process on both sides. And the more that both are really open and honest about what they're wanting with the recruitment consultant, the better they can do their job. And if there's been a mismatch at any point, then it's going back and really being open and sharing that and learning from it and going, okay, well, where, if there isn't a match here, where is that fallen out? But yeah, you just got to be, as a somebody going to a recruitment consultancy as a candidate, please, be open about what you're looking for as much as, as if you're an employer, because then that produces the best outcomes.
Yeah, well, and it seems smart to build those relationships and connections before you really need it, when you really can be open and find the right fit instead of in that moment of really the pressure of needing a job. So any last words of wisdom for employers looking to really identify and, attract, hire, and retain employees?
I think, well, just to sum up, the 3 points that we've covered today is make sure that you've got the right team composition at the right salary levels. So you've got an amazing team and you're not, somebody isn't drowning in the different workload that they've got, but, you've kind of got the right size. So get guidance and advice on that if you haven't got it already. Make sure the interview process is really tight and you've got somebody working with you if it's a recruitment company, to help you interview people, do technical tests, shortlists if you've never sort of hired for these roles before, because it's impossible to hire for them if you've not worked in this role. You need somebody to sort of be that verification check that you're not you're not hiring completely somebody in the wrong role. Third is, make sure that you promote the job role with all those sexy benefits that we've talked about, all those things that make it stand out to attract the right people, and share that with the recruitment agency, or in your job ads. And use a recruitment agency where you can. So if we can support you at Supermums Recruitment, let us know. We do place and help companies hire talent in both the USA, UK, and other countries across EMEA. So always happy to help. There's obviously more intel on all of this within the chapter of the book. So if you want to buy the chapter of the book, we'll put the link in the comments and you can buy that. And that will just give you more intel, as well as the whole A to Z of leading a Salesforce project more broadly.
Wonderful. And I feel like every week I think, oh, this is such a great topic, so important. And then the next week I think, no, this one's even better. But next week's topic I think is a huge one. And that is how to identify and empower employees as Salesforce champions. And I think this particular topic is one that will help you really retain your great employees and create the stories that will attract others, because that opportunity to be a champion and be involved is such an important one.
We shall see you same time next week.
Exactly. Well, thanks everyone. See you next week.
Thanks, Helen. Bye.